Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is not my typical type of video, but I would like to do more of these lists in the future. I did a top 10 pedals of 2021 way back, and I was demoing a lot that year, so I had a lot to pull from. And by the end of 2022, I just wasn't prepared enough. I don't think about these things ahead of time, and it's like I find myself, it's mid-December, I've got Christmas time going on, family and stuff, and I just don't have time to cobble a video together. And by the end of 2023, I was dealing with a lot, my family was dealing with a lot that actually made me put my channel on pause for the end of 2023 and the first half of 2024 this year, which is why you weren't seeing any new content coming out for a while. Now you're seeing me start to pick it back up, but long story short, my family's house had a major structural collapse along with several other issues that made our house non-livable for many months, and so I was not able to record, and basically we had to rebuild our house. So that was pretty insane, and just hit the ground running in May. So there's lots of stuff that came out in 2024 that I have not had a chance to play. And yes, there's some stuff that looks really cool, stuff that I've had my eye on. There's a lot of stuff from companies that I just don't work with. So if I was going to do a video or some content on it, I would have to purchase it myself. And that's hard to maintain for a small channel like myself. But I feel like I have been able to get to a lot in a short span of time, so there is some newer stuff on this list. I wanted to go through all the hundreds of pedals that I've sat down with, really gotten intimate with, and explored the ins and outs of, and pick my top 12 absolute favorites for whatever reasons, which leads me to what are some good reasons to put a pedal on this list. This list is pretty biased, you know, as all lists are, okay, fundamentally. But I have different needs and requirements for what maybe makes a cool pedal than, say, someone who is a stage performer or is regularly gigging. For starters, I know a lot of like touring musicians like to put Boss pedals on their board, and besides that, Boss pedals are great, of course. You can find them in any store, like a Guitar Center, if you're in a city and something's wrong with your rig or something happened the night before and you need to find a replacement real fast. It's really easy. So they are reliable in that sense. I am nowadays a bedroom recording artist, and I do most of my work in here with my pedal board either at my hand's reach or at my feet. And I have the ability to overdub, change settings. So things like that are going to factor into why I like a pedal. That being said, having studio grade sound quality is sort of a must for me. And so I think that is one of the things that I'm basing my recommendations off of. Now, you might be a person who likes really simple pedals, and you're like, the easier the interface, the better, because I can just dive right in. I get that. I like that too. Or you might be a person that likes pedals with tons of knobs and tweakability, and all of these controls are interactive with each other. I also like that. So you're gonna see sort of a mixed bag here, but I'll explain my reasoning on each one. Now, I wanted to point out that this t-shirt that I'm wearing is available in my merch store, which is a really cool way that you can help out the channel and help contribute to what I'm doing. Because yeah, I mean, I don't make like a ton of money, you know, doing this. I work really hard at the channel, and I don't reach out enough to my followers, to you, the viewer, to ask for things like that. It's just not in my nature, and it's something I kind of have to get over, you know, as a YouTuber sometimes. Hell, I don't even ask for you to subscribe, like, or comment on my videos. I just hope that you do those things naturally. But while you're at it, if you want to do those things, that's great. That's awesome. Like, for real, I really appreciate it. I also want to say this video is not sponsored in any way, so none of these companies know that I'm making this video beforehand, even though I have worked with most or all of these companies to make content. Now, I also wanted to discuss something else real quick, because some of you may comment, or maybe you're wondering, why don't you review Boss, Electro Harmonics, Behringer, more pedals, some of these larger companies, bigger production companies. The biggest reason is just that I don't work with these companies. They operate on such a scale that they're not sending me product to demonstrate, and I'm kind of past the phase where I'm like I said earlier, purchasing pedals to make content, because I can't really sustain the channel doing that. So I'm basing this list of 12 off of pedals that I have had personal experience with, and I operate in the boutique pedal realm. Also, this is not a dig at Moore or Behringer or anything like that, but I do teach guitar students, and they buy pedals on low budgets all the time. So I play these lower budget pedals pretty consistently, and it's hard to compare to the really high quality stuff that comes across my desk. So I'm not really poo-pooing cheaper pedals or saying that like you can't get good tone out of them, but there are a lot of downsides to these cheaper pedals, a lot more inconsistencies and a lot less variation in tone. You're gonna suffer in sound quality very often. And yet, at the end of the day, a huge part of your tone is absolutely in your hands and in your rig, and everything that's in your signal chain on the way from point A to point B to your ear holes. So you absolutely can get good tone with cheap pedals regardless. This list is also in no particular order because of the varying categories of pedals. It's not like I could really rank them 12 to 1. But yeah, let's get to it. I'm gonna kick things off with the GFX 91W from Codex Audio. The GFX in the title stands for Ground Effects, which is the former company name for Codex Audio, and they flipped over, recently, mid last year or so. So a lot of the pedals are still floating out there as Ground Effects, but they are one and the same. Ben is a brilliant designer. His pedals are simple, they're intuitive, and he just focuses things on sound and accessibility. I mean, I think those are his two core aspects that just remain steady through his whole lineup. He's got reverbs, distortions, fuzzes. He's also a fantastic luthier, and they have a really cool guitar series out. But yeah, back to the GFX 91W. This is a digital delay that he released last year that has a ton of features, features that really work for me. I use delay all the time in my demos, especially in like dirt pedal demos and things like that, because delay is just one of the most common effects. Now, why would I pick the GFX 91W for this list when there are so many other digital delays out there? Well, I'm sure there are comparable ones, but this one packs everything that you would come to expect, all the modern amenities and features of some of the coolest digital delays in big box enclosures, and puts it in this small, really cool looking enclosure where you have tap tempo, you can get into oscillation really easily, you have up to 10 seconds of digital delay time. I love that it has a screen on it where you can see the BPM timing or switch it to milliseconds. This is extremely handy when you work in a DAW and you're working with songs where you want to sync things up to a beat. You don't have to worry about the inconsistencies of tap tempo. You can just dial it to the exact BPM that you want, and you know that everything's in line. I mean, that's awesome. Tons of subdivision options. It has tails, it has modulation, it has a low pass filter on the repeats. So everything that a good digital delay needs is there, and it looks awesome, and it sounds incredible. So check it out. All right, up next is the Swamp Witch Pedals Silver Birch Distortion. This thing's an overdrive / distortion. You can absolutely get it down to really clean territory where it doesn't fizzle out at the tail end of notes like some overdrives or distortions or fuzzes when you try to roll back the gain and get more of a cleaner tone with them. It just handles that really, really well. It has a switch on it to go from series to parallel because it is a dual gain stage distortion. So you have a low mid-range channel that's acting as a preamp into your bright channel, and you can combine these in all sorts of ways. It's extremely versatile. When you have them both cranked in parallel mode, it's thick, high gain distortion that cuts like a knife, but it's also really warm and textural. And there's a bass and treble control in there that's really simple for cutting and boosting, and it just has a lot of immediacy. It's easy to use. I've used this on so many demos as just my main dirt pedal that's driving my guitar under delays and things. You can go look in the descriptions of my videos and you'll see it in my signal chain in a lot of them. But anyway, check it out. All right, up next is the MALINCONIA from Teffy Vintage Lab, and this just came out quite recently. It's the sort of big brother to the golden era pedal that they put out a few years back, and yes, it is worth it to get a hold of one. I know that they're hard to find. You should get on this pre-order wait list early, because I've played a lot of lo-fi pedals and there's a lot of great ones out there, but the way that the control set is laid out on the MALINCONIA gives you a lot of tweakability, but you know, I'm going to use this word a lot, immediacy, because I like that in pedals. I like that when I sit down to plug a pedal in, I don't have to turn a ton of knobs to just immediately feel the effect of that pedal and hear it enhancing my tone. Now, if you think cutting the fidelity of your audio isn't enhancing your tone, then you wouldn't like this pedal. But to me, you can run this thing through keys, you can run guitars through it on bass. It's incredible because I just love punchy mid-range bass tones to begin with. All in all, it's really simple. It adds noise to your sound. You've got a randomized wobble and warp, and you can control the speed of that modulation. You've got a bass cut and you have a filter, and you can use those combined to make a bandpass filter, or you can just do high pass or low pass. So it's really easy to dial in. And then the major difference, besides some minor tweaks in the warp and wobble and the noise on this version compared to the golden era, is that it has now a preamp saturator, so you can add warm saturation to things. You can use it as a light, very vintagey sounding overdrive, which is really cool, or you can add power and punch back to things that you may feel needed because you've cut down some of the high or low end frequencies. All right, up next we have the Alexander Pedals Fever Pitch, which is a stereo 4-voice polyphonic stereo digital pitch pedal. And there's a big difference between digital and analog if you're not familiar. Most of you probably are, but with digital pitch, this is one of the most transformative effects that we still have for the guitar pedal. If you add an octave down plus an octave up, you can transform the guitar into a very organ-like sound, especially when you start to add modulation to that, which this pedal definitely does. So not only do you have like an up and down, which you might have in some of the earlier, EHX pitch pedals and Boss pitch pedals, but you could do 2 octaves down, you could do an octave and 2 octaves, and then an octave up and 2 octaves up. I think it even goes up to 3 octaves, which is insane. I don't know why anybody would ever want to do that. And you can combine all of these to create some really vibrant voicings. Not to mention there's also delay and reverb and other effects that you can blend in with this. And the way that Alexander Pedals designs their Neo Series stuff, especially the newer Neo Series models, it really is like a sound tweaker slash sound designer's wet dream, because you can ramp parameters with the foot switch. You can use an expression controller to ramp or manipulate any parameters that you want. You can save presets. You can have all these different sounds to go on the fly, including the classic like organ sound. Definitely, you can get these really ethereal, dreamy shimmer verbs out of it, and there's even a step sequencer built into it. So there's no pedal on earth like the Fever Pitch. I think it is one of the best, if not the best, digital pitch pedals out there on the market. Okay, moving on, we have the SPUTNIK 3 from Spaceman Effects, which is really just the modern version, the adapted version of the SPUTNIK 1 and the SPUTNIK 2 from previous years. I think going back to 2014 was maybe when the first SPUTNIK was released. Could be mistaken on that, but I had an early OG SPUTNIK and I loved the hell out of that pedal. Never got my hands on a SPUTNIK 2. I feel like SPUTNIK 3 really captures the essence of that sound, but it eliminated some of the issues that the OG had with not playing super well with pedals sitting in front of it in the chain. So texturally, there are some differences, and a lot of people will argue over this. There is no fuzz out there that really captures the sound of this pedal. There are a lot of octave fuzzes, there are a lot of Velcro fuzzes, and SPUTNIK 3 is sort of in a category all of its own. It's sticky, the sustain is unreal, it rips, you don't sacrifice the low end at all, and you can get into the drift mode where you can just go absolutely volatile, wacky with it. And unlike some other volatile fuzzes, it's in actually a musical way where it will screech when you stop playing, so you can time things out to your playing, and that's one of my favorite things to do with it. So yeah, Spaceman Effects, SPUTNIK 3, check it out. Okay, moving on, we have the Strymon NIGHTSKY, what do they call it? Time warped reverberator. See, I had to look at that because calling this a reverb is really doing it an injustice. And a lot of Big Sky users were kind of scratching their heads when this came out, and they're like, should I get rid of my Big Sky and get this? Like, is this better? What is this, Big Sky 2? No, this is something completely new. This is all about huge, vast soundscapes and sound design within a reverb. So in a very different way than like Big Sky or any other kind of more workhorse reverbs where you're just trying to capture sort of this ethereal floating vibe, or maybe like worship guitar tone, right? If you look at the front of this thing, the sections are laid out more like you'd see on an analog synthesizer, where you have things sectioned off for your modulation, for your decay, for your voicing, for your tone, and things like that. It's all about sound sculpting. You can have the LFO target the reverb, the pitch on here, or the filter. You've got different shapes for the modulation. You can filter out things. There's different reverb core sizes, so you can get roomy tones, and you can also get like massive plate sounds on it. There's a drive section, so you can saturate the reverb. You can save a bunch of onboard presets, and you just pick them with these little, buttons here, which is really super convenient. And there's even a step sequencer built into this thing, so you can mess with the pitches and the timing and create these really cool undulating sequences. Anyway, very, very unique and special reverb pedal that's almost like a synthesizer in and of itself. All right, moving on. The Cooper Effects Arcades. Gone, but not forgotten. Yes, this was a pedal that used little cartridges like an SNES that you top-loaded and had lots of cool effects. Was it gimmicky? Maybe. Did it sound incredible, and was it incredibly fun? Yes. Tom from Cooper Effects wasn't the first person to try this approach, but I can say with confidence that I think he was the only one that really stuck the landing. When it first came out, there were 8 cards with 8 effects each, and you had a different category for each type of effect: lo-fi, granular delays, reverb, things like that. And there was usually like some type of delay or reverb on each of these cards that pertained to that category. They all sounded so cool. At the time that I went to go demo it, I couldn't decide which effects that I was going to sort of focus on, so I ended up making, like, this is one of my earlier demos, and I made a piece where I used all 32 of the original, and then I went back after he released four more cards and did another set of demos, and then he put out an XP300 space station card for it later on down the line, and I got to mess with that too. There's so many sounds out of this thing, and the interface was as simple as dirt. You just had like 4 knobs that were on the front face, and you had 2 pages of those knobs. You could ramp parameters. It was so much fun, and it absolutely pushed the FV1 chip to its limits. Miss you, arcades. All right, up next we have the EFP2 Spring Reverb from EchoFix, Australian company, and I am new to them, so this is my first experience, but this is without a doubt a studio grade analog spring pedal. There are 3 actual springs inside there, and yes, you can tap the tank and get the crazy raucous, spring sound that we used to love to do with our amp heads. This pedal's interface is extremely simple and it just sounds so incredible. I haven't demoed a whole lot of actual spring reverbs. I've done some digital ones, but I have played many, and I used to have like a massive Fender reverb tank on top of my amp cab, so I'm familiar with the original sound. And I find with a lot of these situations, a lot of these pedals, so many of them are overly bright. They sound fantastic in a room and on a stage. For recording purposes, a lot of times when you get that guitar tracked, you are cutting out harsh resonant frequencies. I did not have that problem with this pedal at all. Having a VU meter is awesome, and you can see with this analog spring drive, how much you're driving your signal. You can't really clip this thing, so you can saturate things and not have to worry about that. The bass and the treble controls are really, really responsive, so you can absolutely get that classic spring, ultra bright sound. And if you want to cut the lows, like, you can do that. But I found myself actually boosting the bass and adding body to the instrumentation that I ran it through. So my demo for this is a little non-traditional because I didn't do a whole lot of surfy sounds. I got more haunting tones out of it that I found more similar maybe to Portishead vibes. Like, I ran this on my Prophet analog synth and it just made everything sound huge. So anyway, I love this pedal. Check it out. Cool. Moving on, we have the Walrus M1 high fidelity modulation machine. This one is a no-brainer. I think it's one of Walrus's best design pedals out there, and they do a lot of cool shit. Like, Walrus makes fantastic pedals. But something about the M1, as I was, pulling it out to demo and I was looking over all of it and I was exploring its sounds, it just struck me that they really thought of everything, and there's just so much you can do in a small enclosure. It's stereo. You have all these different modulation types, so it could actually replace a lot of pedals on your board, your tremolo, your chorus, your phasers, and things like that in stereo. But you can also use it as a lo-fi device. So you can add lo-fi age, warble, noise, like all that stuff to any of the modulation that you are already picking. There's different modes of modulation even within each category. So, harmonic tremolo and your standard tremolo and things like that. They really thought this stuff through. You can add an ambient reverb to any of your modulations. MIDI programmable, updatable by USB. Like I said, this pedal is a no-brainer. Go check it out. Okay, coming up next, this may be the most conventional pick for one of my favorite pedals of all time, and that is the Microcosm from Hologram Electronics. Out of all the granular delays and reverbs and samplers and things like that that have come out in recent years, Microcosm is still an unbeatable pedal in this realm when you take into account all of its features. Now, this is a box of many wild soundscape type sounds, glitching, freezing, repeats, stutters. You can create bird chirping noises with it if you want. You can create a whole lot of ambience with this pedal easily because of the space knob that's on. I love that. I love pedals where you get the initial effect, or it's a multi-effect, so you get all these different effects, and then you can just slather on large stereo ambient reverb on top of those things. I mean, that just gives you all these different possibilities to create ambient music. I would love to say that I am a master of using the looping section of this pedal, but frankly, I've only tried it a handful of times. It was super fun when I did. I don't get out and gig too much these days, but for a performing musician, that makes this pedal even more cool and usable. You can design an entire live set just around the Microcosm. So I don't think I even need to say anything more about this pedal. Next is the SILKTONE FUZZ from SILKTONE. I actually have a SILKTONE amp, so maybe I'm a little biased on this, but when you read other reviews of the SILKTONE FUZZ, the sentiment is pretty much shared by everyone. This fuzz is like the nicest, highest quality germanium fuzz that you can find, or it's up there, since of course I haven't tried every single one, but you've got a bias meter, so you can really dial in the sweet spot. You can always see where you're at, so you have control over that at any time. Just inherently though, it's a fantastic sounding fuzz. It responds well to like all pickup types. It's clear, it's articulate, it's got fantastic texture to it, and it cleans up into a fantastic overdrive as well. There's no downsides, there's no bad sounds inside of this, so inherently it's just a perfect fuzz. Now, if you're trying to blow your amp up and scare your neighbors, there are other fuzzes out there on the market that can do that. For the final pedal, believe it or not, I'm going to pick another pedal from Swamp Witch Pedals, which is called the Season of the Witch. What is it? Okay, I'm going to butcher this because it's a very complex pedal, but basically it's a highly modulated digital delay with a PT2399 chip that's become synonymous with these lo-fi, murky, haunting echoes, and you absolutely can get that out of it. Haunting, psychedelic, trippy, hyper resonant tones. That's what this thing is all about. And a lot of it has to do with tweaking these subtle variations between your signal and the control signal and screwing around with the modulation on it, the feedback modulation. This pedal just feels very alive. It really begs you to dive in and start turning knobs and just see what kind of sounds you can uncover. So this is not your grandpa's delay pedal, and that's absolutely what I love about it. Now, granted, because there are so many knobs and they're so interactive, there's a lot of times where you might be scratching your head and you're like, how do I get this sound? But after 5 minutes of working with it, I had already come up with like 10 sounds that were insanely cool that I'd never heard in any other kind of digital delay. The only pedals that I can think that are comparable would be something like the Time Shadows or the Speed Tripper, which are both from Death by Audio and both involve those highly resonant, sort of phased out, trippy delay tones. So you can get that here as well. Now, I do need to mention that I believe the Season of the Witch is out of stock, but it's only because they've discontinued it and they're pretty close to wrapping up this Season of the Witch V2. I don't know what they're going to call it, maybe just Season 2, and that'll be out shortly. So when it does drop, you should definitely try and snag one. It's just insanely fun. Alright, before we go though, I do want to throw out some honorable mentions because there are many pedals that I haven't had a chance to demo properly, or I wasn't hired to demo and I used them, or I have used them, or I've gotten them in trades and fell in love with them, or I had them with my band before I even started demoing pedals. I've played a lot of pedals, so I wanted to throw into this list also some other pedals that I probably would put on this list if I had some content to show for you. So just wanted to toss that out there. I would say the Strymon El Capistan V2, probably my favorite tape delay. Volante kind of goes up there with it. The Dreadbox Hypnosis, which is not technically, theoretically a pedal, but I've thrown it on pedal boards many times. The Walrus D1 V2, awesome multi-mode digital delay, and small, it's in stereo, it's a no-brainer, it sounds amazing. The Benson preamp, both the standard one and the Chase Bliss one are incredible. The Mood Make 2, extremely fun pedal. I think that's one of Chase Bliss's greatest creations. The Generation Loss in any iteration, V1, V2, the Arcades Gin Loss card, and of course the Chase Bliss newer model. The Spaceman Explorer phaser. So a lot of phasers out there, and that one just really does it to me. It's a 6-stage phaser, and it's just warm and lush and gooey, and I love it. The Ground Effects Keto Chorus, which this would now be Codex Audio Keto Chorus. I've talked about this pedal in a lot of demos. It's a digital spring reverb mixed with a chorus, and it's just watery and bright and has a flavor and a character all to its own. That's just incredible. The Park Fuzz from EQD. There are so many fuzzes out there, so it's an extremely subjective thing, but I think the Park Fuzz is incredibly well-rounded. It gets so high gain, and when you back it off just a little bit, you get some really great vintagey fuzz tones out of it. And I love the way that the tone knob is set up on that pedal. It's just an all-around great sounding, reliable workhorse fuzz pedal. And probably the Ghost Echo V1, V2, V3, they all pretty much sound the same, if not identical, just because I love simple pedals like that you can throw on and you immediately just have slap back and a little bit of reverb in your tone. You just immediately start having fun. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, this is just my top 12 favorite pedals of all time within the amount of pedals that I have demoed over the past 5 years. So that does exclude a lot of other options. There's a lot of amazing, fantastic pedals out there. We really do live in the golden age of effects. And this doesn't have to be like a collectible Pokemon card, type thing. It's about finding an effect that inspires you and that you bond with and that pulls creativity out of you. Those are really the best pedals right there. It doesn't hurt to get excited about gear and, wait by your front door anticipating a package to arrive and all that excitement of opening up a pedal box and just looking upon its glory. All that's great too. We love all parts of this. That's why we're into this kind of stuff. So I encourage you to get more creative, get out there, play with more pedals, check out the ones that I showed you guys. Don't forget to check out the merch store in the link below, and like and subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Thank you so much, and I will check you guys later.